And I'd like to give a warm welcome to Hilda Orton, Chair of the DDI Scientific Board. Hilda.
Thank you very much, Jared. On the screen now, hopefully you see the agenda for today. As you see, we have many items. First of all, there are reports from the Scientific Board and the Executive Board, the TC, and then several other reports from working groups and also from contacts that we have for several topics. In the last 30 minutes of this meeting, there will be a discussion and with two topics, DDI API or publication issues and statistical packages. And Darren will lead this discussion. The whole thing will go on for 2 hours, and I will administer the slides from here so that for you who present, you will say, next slide, please, and so on. I will let you know 2 minutes when you have 2 minutes left of your presentation and when your time is out for that. Also, when I do this, it can be a little difficult for me to follow what is going on in the chat. So if you, Darren, could monitor that when you're not presenting, would be really nice. And then I suggest I continue with my own presentation, which is the report from the Scientific Board. Yeah, first of all, members of the Scientific Board. I've been on the Scientific Board since the new board started in 2021, first as a vice chair and then as a chair. And then Darren also has been on from the start and vice chair from 2023. And then the current members are Flavio Risolo from StatCan, Ingo Barkov from University of Applied Sciences of Grisons, Simon Hodgson, co-data, Wolfgang St. Mölken from GESIS, Jared Lyle and Wendy Thomas as ex officio representatives from the TC and from the Secretariat, and Dan Smith from Collectica. Flavio and Ingo will end the periods now in July, and we would like to thank them very much for their contributions. It has been really great to have you on board and helping out with the tasks of the Scientific Board in your period. Ingo was also chair for the first 2 years. And then we would like to welcome very much 2 new members who will start in July. Amber Leahy from Borealis and Scholars Portal, and Noémie Betancourt from Suyob Library and in Bremen and Research Data Center Coalition.
Hilde, we don't hear it.
Yeah. Okay. In addition to members, we also have some contacts on our board, and we have a W3C contact, which is actually Darren, and he is a contact for the whole DDI Alliance, but also for the Scientific Board for carrying out tasks we have in our plan regarding W3C activities and so on. And we also have an ISO TC46 information and documentation group contact, which is Dan Gilman, who is working now on ISO certification for DDI. And Wendy will talk a little more about that later today, because Dan is on a meeting with that group today. And also we have a UNEC or statistical agency contact, that is Flavio Risolo. Arof and Gregory also is in that, but he is unfortunately on sick leave for the time being. So Flavio is taking care of that. And here are our current working groups under the Scientific Board. As you see, there are many of them. we have the TC, who also has an important technical governance role. We have the training groups that is also going on always, control vocabularies, CDI working group, developers, SDTL and SDTH, RDF equivalents, questions and questionnaire, XGOS, glossary, and the ISO certification temporary working group. All these are, some of them are really long-standing groups that work for a long time and very intensively. Others have more going into kind of maintenance mode, like for example, the glossary was very active, but when it published its first version, now it's more going into maintenance mode for that group. And RDF equivalence working group, that has just done some initial tasks, but will be more active when we have RDF representation for more of the DDI Alliance products. And one more thing I would like to say about this, that we have in the Alliance, we have members, associated member organizations, and paying member organizations. But and they are supposed to send a kind of staff to these working groups. But these working groups have so many other members, and they are members who contribute their own time without any payment or anything in these groups, and also lots of other institutions than the associated members or members give their time to this work. And that brings in new knowledge and also gives a lot of resources to the work of the DDI Alliance. And activities of the scientific board in the past years. We had some meeting and events, a virtual SB meetings. We have monthly, we have quarterly calls or more often as needed with the executive board. And also we had a physical scientific board meeting in Kur in December. For each working group, we have a scientific board contact who are working with the group as needed. And we also had an event during EDDI with the executive director, the EB and SB together. And the activities of the scientific board is very much centered around the scientific work plan. That was published just after the fiscal year started, and it's structured in terms of the three strategic priorities of the strategic plan: engagement, expansion, and alignment. It's goal-oriented, so that the working groups kind of define the concrete tasks within these goals, and the plan, the activity of and goals of the plan are implemented by the scientific board, CC working groups, and other initiatives in collaboration. So that is how it works. So here you can see what we have as goals for the different points in the strategic plan, and the ones that are bolded are the ones that we have started working on, or some of our groups or TC have started working on. Expansion, that is a little bigger, more topics there. And also for alignment. And the plan activities, our main tasks moving forward is to carry out the activities that are aligned with the scientific work plan, and also kind of make concrete tasks for ourselves to do in the coming time. this plan goes throughout 2026, so there is some time left for that. And also to follow up with the contributors, the other contributors, like with half-yearly reporting that we started, and follow up with the working groups, and approving and sunsetting and making initiatives move forward. And then we will have a physical meeting in Budapest in connection with EDI 2025. So that was all for me. And I would like to thank you so much, everyone from the scientific community. It is really great what you are doing, and everybody is so collaborative and helpful at doing, and so competent and doing a really super job and to develop very high quality DDI Alliance product and making them visible. So thank you very much. And then let's move directly to John. Are you ready, John?
Yep.
Good. Let's start.
Okay, I'm John Johnson. I'm the chair of the executive board. Have been for the last year or so. Yeah, and just want to just cover a few things, sort of highlight things I think are sort of important things to that the exec I think are trying to do around, particularly on the expansion and the to some extent the engagement themes that Hilda mentioned earlier as part of the strategic that aligned with the scientific strategic plan and the scientific plan. So next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so I think one of the things that is really important, I think, is not to forget that the DDI is a really heavily used standard out there. It's used, you know, these figures are I wouldn't say accurate, they're indicative. So this is pulling together some information that I've got from various sources like the R3 data repository and other information that we have. But just gives a flavor really of you know, although, you know, there are probably about 500 repositories, organizations, probably slightly more than that, that are using DDI. And, you know, that is a really incredible achievement. I think it, you know, it is increasing year on year. I think anecdotally at least. But, you know, I think that, you know, membership, affiliates of DDI really only represent 10% of those sort of the community as a whole. So, you know, I think as a body, we obviously have our own information from our members and so on, and from the community events we hold and conferences and so on. But, you know, it is important we keep in mind that 90% of our users, we don't really have very much information about or know what their needs are and so on. So I think there's a, you know, I think we need to be sometimes a little bit more humble about what we're trying to do and who we're trying to do it for, and think about a bit more wider about who we're serving, as well as obviously the members who are funding the organisation. Next slide, please. And that again is quite unevenly distributed around the world. I mean, our membership or affiliates are, you know, primarily Europe, North America, and to some extent Australia, New Zealand. So we're quite geographically unrepresented as an organisation. And I think one of the points in the scientific plan, which is also in the strategic plan, is to trying to make that engagement more diverse. And I think that gives us sort of an idea of the sort of challenge that you've got really to try to do that. But it's worth keeping in mind where we've got strengths and where we've got weaknesses in organisation in terms of the usage of DDI. Yeah, I mean, even in like Europe, we think, you know, Europe is one of the biggest parts of the Alliance membership, but even that, we're quite a small proportion of all the users in Europe. Okay, next one, please. So the exec has two groups, working groups, part of that, one of which is the marketing group. That was re-established last year, and it is focusing initially on statistical agencies as a community to target. And as part of that, the group is developing some case studies, which we can hope will be used to try to encourage more membership and more activity in the official stats area or statistical agencies more generally. And I don't know whether it's coincidence or just pure, or we've just been very good at the marketing side, but the Stats Netherlands stepped forward recently to initiate official statistics working group, which was approved earlier this month by the EB. Terms of reference were approved, and there are some plans to have meetings through the rest of the year. First meeting, I think, is coming up in the next couple of months, and I think we're going to get that out, and hopefully they can start to feed in the leads and the views from not just the members who are in the stats community, but also the wider stats community. So I think that's going to be quite a really interesting development in terms of trying to both increase adoption in the stats agencies, but also to increase membership and engagement with the stats community for DDI's products. Next one, please.
1 minute left.
Oh, can I?
You can have 2 minutes.
Yeah. So this is again just about who are members and who are associate members, just to get an idea of where members are in the sort of functions type of organisation. So that's just a useful thought about in terms of expansion and trying to get additional members. Last couple of slides. And sorry, slides are different order, so I originally put them. So yeah, and this is just the similar thing for the stats agencies. Again, we're represented well, but there's obviously we need to find out a bit more about the agencies, what they're doing, and where we can target them for increased adoption and engagement. Last couple of slides are next one. Yeah. So at the annual meeting, we're presenting the full budget. This is just to give you a flavour of where we're at with the thing. This year, we're going to have a 3-year budget and try to propose a 3-year budget so that we've got a better idea of planning over the shorter to medium term. So that's the raw figures, and we'll be more about that at the annual meeting, and more discussion about that I'm sure will be had. And the last slide. And this is really about how we're thinking about trying to apportion the income we've got across the different activities, to both, sustain the organisation, for governance, for the secretariat, make sure we're getting out marketing, supporting things like, research and development activities such as Dagstall, the sort of day-to-day activities of the working groups, and also trying to make sure there's some room for innovation that aligns with the wider strategic plan. So hopefully that's the sort of balance that we can achieve. Is it?
Okay. Thank you very much, John. That was very nice. And now we move to Wendy. Are you ready, Wendy?
Yes, I'm here.
Good.
Okay, I'm Wendy Thomas. I'm chair of the technical committee, which oversees the development and production and publication of various of the standards on our product suite. We also have oversight for supporting the whole technical infrastructure and the whole development process to make sure that it's not only workable for the people that are involved now, but going forward, that we have some long-term maintenance and long-term control as people and individuals switch over and move jobs, etc., that we make sure we retain access to and support for all of our products and publications that are put out by the Alliance. Next. Um, Similar to the scientific board, we publish a roadmap. I'm assuming these slides will be available, and there's a link to it at the bottom. And this is a roadmap that we update periodically. We use the roadmap primarily because of the range of activities that TC has. We want to be able to identify specific activities that we're doing, particularly at different times, identify priorities, because while we do things, we don't have the bandwidth to focus on everything all at once. So it lets you know when we're focusing on something and working on a particular project. It allows you to track progress and to also communicate current activities and coming priorities. Right now, this is a list of the major activity areas. Separation of specific product development. We'll talk about that a little more later. The overall model of DDI coverage to try and fit together an overall picture of how all those products fit together, what pieces of overall coverage are covered by each product to help people determine which products to use more easily. We have been in the process of shifting coverage development. That is a new topic area or an improvement in topic areas as a cross product development so that you're getting together the requirements for development and then moving them in to the products that they're related to. So we're working on doing that. It's slow, but it's getting there. And I think the fact that we have a couple of groups that are looking at, say, questionnaires, and and the RDF group that we're moving in that direction. Looking at products to help support usage and application of the major products in the suite. Production tools management plan website. We've taken on the website in the past year, as well as resolution for our RDF syntaxes, control vocabularies, development environment for products, so that we're all working relatively within the same environment, so that it becomes less dependent on single individuals and allows broader options for involvement of the community. And then working with the developers group on support for implementers. Next. What we've been working on this year is obviously, we've transferred the DDI lifecycle production to COGS, which is a means of automating that production process. Many of our products in the past have all been handcrafted, and we need to get out of that mode because it slows down development and it slows down our ability to review new content and to involve members. The codebook version 2.6 has gone through review. The schema for that is pretty solid. We're working on the documentation. There was this large update to field level documentation for consistency, so that's been improved, and we have added high level documentation. I say once again, I hope to get this moving really quick, and I've got a lot of people beating on me to do that. So this is my personal priority for the next short term. We moved the DDI website to HubSpot, established the RDF resolution for controlled vocabularies, and have been moving the development work from Bitbucket to GitHub, and that has gone relatively smoothly. We're still working on a few specifics. Next. This is a slide that we showed at Eddy. This is kind of the overall technical infrastructure for DDI. We're really trying to make sure that we have a broad infrastructure, that we're good at moving things from repositories to various products. Those are stored in a particular place, and through publication. So we're trying to make sure that all the parts in the infrastructure are working well together and working well in a consistent manner. So anybody is interested in these areas, please contact us. We're happy to have more members. Next. So our focus for this year, we're coming back. We have done in the past a considerable amount of looking at mapping between DDI products and what the overall coverage of DDI is. The work with the ISO plays into that very strongly, and we need to come back and work on that after our sidetrack into the web work. We want to implement guidance. We working with the developers group on content and tools for implementers. We think that's a hole in where we have providing guidance, and then working with the DDI usage groups and things, and the getting started pages, making sure that those are up to date and really functional and helpful to people. We are also looking at, and we prepared a proposal for the executive board to create a DDI Google document site. At the moment, our Google documents related to the administration and work of the various working groups, particularly, and the administration, are spread in various Google Docs locations, generally affiliated with individuals' own home institution. As those of us who are getting older and retiring and are losing our Google space from our institutions, we want to be sure that the documents for DDI are not lost, that there's a central place where members can go in and view a variety, the working documents of the organization, that has some overall clear structure to it, but also allows the working groups to organize their work in the way that is functional for them. So that should be coming this year. Continuing improvements on the website. We basically moved what we had over. We've just gotten through a user review of a UX review of the website and have recommendations for them, and we're in the process of implementing those. Darren will probably speak a little more about that. And we want to improve access to tools, markup examples, etc. So we're looking at ways to improve access to content, and then our automation of the product production pipelines, just so that we don't, by losing an individual, don't lose a large part of a production step. Next. We're also, I'm almost done. Yeah. We've got 2 new working groups that we're going to be working on setting up this year. We're peeling off the codebook and lifecycle, which a lot of people have thought that's the only thing TC does. And clearly we have a lot of other activities. So we'll be developing 2 new working groups over the next year. People who are interested with that, please let us know. You'll be seeing, and keep an eye open for announcements looking for interested persons. Next. And obviously, we're always looking for new members. What we've actually started, though, this time is, as we're looking for new members, we wanted to focus on some specific skills, particularly as we're putting more focus on the technical infrastructure. There are skills that we need more of. It's not that we don't have them, but they're spread pretty thin. So if come back and look at this, if you're interested in working with the technical committee, it is not the huge time commitment that it used to be. We try not to suck the life out of people, but to let you focus on areas of interest, and basically, other than that, keep track of what we're working on so you know where and if you want to plug in. We have many members that are pretty much in that role. And I believe that is the last slide.
Okay, thank you very much, Wendy, for this and for all of your work. I saw you, Darren, had raised your hand.
Yeah, sorry. Just to clarify, for the HubSpot website, it's JavaScript, not Java. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, thanks again to Wendy. And then we move to you, Darren, about the website.
Yeah. So following that effortless segue into the website. So next slide, Hilda. So as you may be aware, we moved over the DDI Alliance org website onto a new platform at the end of last year. Really, this was driven largely. It was fairly urgent because it was an old version of Drupal. Michigan found it increasingly difficult to support it and maintain it, and I totally sympathise with that. So at the end of the year, we had a sprint in London, and technical committee did the bulk of the content migration, and that's all gone over now. So simultaneously, docs.ddalliance.org has been created on Amazon Web Services, and the idea of that is to decouple some of the more technical documentation content that's coming out of the GitHub workflows and to separate that from, the more textual corporate content, if you like, on the main website. So that was all done by TC towards the end of last year. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't totally straightforward. These things never are. There was a lot of content that had accumulated over the years. Some of the underlying databases were a little bit messy and needed some cleansing. It's always a challenge having to do redirects around URLs and old DOIs and things like that. But yeah, we got there in the end. So the first priority really was just to get the lift and shift done to migrate that from Drupal to HubSpot. So that priority is ticked off now, and really the next step this year and next year is to actually optimize the website, and give our users the website they deserve. So next slide, Hilda. Sorry, next slide, Hilda. Okay, all right, okay. So none of us, I think it's fair to say, who did this on TC are professional web developers or UX people. So ICPSR very kindly did a UX review over the last couple of months, and they produced a report. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with them to discuss their recommendations. I mean, it is a very comprehensive and fulsome report, but very simply, just in lay terms, the menu structure and the navigation structure is a little bit too complex and not totally intuitive at the moment. So we'll be looking at within TC as to how we can optimally improve that. I think ICPSR have also suggested that we set up some kind of user panel that can provide that kind of feedback, rather than us groping in the dark and second guessing what the users need. On the user interface level, I think just standardizing how we list products, both within the navigation structures and within the pages. That comes down really to consistent styling and having some consistent templates. Those are reasonably easy fixes to do. At the UX level, there's lots and lots of content, lots of heavy textual content, not always easy to find stuff. So their recommendation is to introduce a robust search feature, a note to Darren to learn how to spell feature, and also ironically enough, better metadata and labeling, to improve search indexes as well and not optimize the finding of content. Also, accessibility, the bane of all of our lives who work in tech services. We need to make sure that it's compliant with accessibility guidelines. So I'll be working on that as well. Next slide.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
So yeah, as part of the report, they also did quite a lot of useful wireframes and mock-ups. This is just an example to give you, an idea of the kind of work that they've been doing for us. This is really nice because, I'm no designer, but what I can do is take a mock-up like this and implement that within HubSpot. So hopefully I'll get some time tomorrow to, just do a test page for this, but they'll be doing other other mock-ups and wireframes for us as well. So yeah, many thanks to ICPSR for helping out with this stuff. But yeah, over the next 6 months, you'll see some improvements in the navigation and the templating, the styling of the website. But as ever, ideas and feedback for content structure of the website are always appreciated. Yeah, so thanks. Okay. Yeah, that's me, Hilda.
Okay. Thank you very much, Darren. And now we move to DDI CDI. We have two presenters for that. It's Flavio Resolo and then Noemi Betancourt, who will talk about what has happened in this a subgroup of CDI regarding qualitative data. Flavio, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, good.
Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks, Gile. I'm Flavio Risolo. been working in the DDI CDI working group for a long time now, and I like to just introduce you, if you haven't seen what the CDI can do for you, to that standard, and also kind of talk a bit about what the way we are organized and what we are working on. Next. So, I mean, over the past few years, we've been focusing on this notion of cross-domain fair data sharing. FAIR is as an acronym for findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable, and it's been kind of our guiding principle or set of principles to develop the last part of the cross-domain integration model. And the three main pieces that this cross-domain fair data sharing requires are be able to describe the data from other domains, and this is kind of a very big difference with respect to prior or other DDI products and other standards in general. Is the nature of the cross-domain interoperability we need to could deal with right now, because in other domains the data is probably structured differently. It's encoded using non-XML technology, although there is a lot of XML. Is proportionally is less than less, and there is more RDF and web standards every year, and it's often described with different terminology and semantics, which requires some explicit way of capturing. Also, we need the standard, which in this case CDI, to be able to work with other standards. We don't want to reinvent the wheel all the time and add continually pieces to the model. That would be unfeasible, and there is no need to do, since we can integrate with other models and use them for the especially for the domain specific pieces. And also we need to capture provenance in a way that helps people understand what the data has been through and what where it's coming from. There are lots of assumptions usually in production of data that are never made explicit entirely, and we need to really be able to capture that to be able to explain the data better. Next. So hence that's what we try to add to the DDI CDI, which has been an official product recently. So as a new product, DDI CDI is not trying to do what other products in the Alliance are doing. So it complements and integrates with them rather than trying to redo what they do, although there are some pieces that are common to all of them. Most of the interesting parts of CDI are the new things and the way of integrating with other standards, both DDI products and also domain standards, again, from other domains. We also try to make it focus on multidisciplinary and interoperable data sharing and integration. So these are the main uses of DDI CDI. Of course, you can use it for other things as well, but it's kind of what's tailored for. It centers on variables, as all the other products are doing as well, but it adds a variety of data structures, and there is also a datum level description that is useful in many cases. Allows for descriptions of data sets to make them integration ready. So it's not just describing the data sets for all purposes, but is explicitly trying to really address the notion of data integration. So what is that you need to describe about data to be able to integrate it with other data, even in other standards. It essentially supports generic also process flow description for provenance, and also it provides means of really doing restructuring of data in a lossless and automated way. Not in all cases, but in the cases that is possible, you can really swap between one data structure and another losslessly. And also we support multiple syntax representations. You have a FAQ there in the slide. Next, please.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay, so this is kind of a very high level view of the main pieces of the DDI CDI. So we have data on the right, and that's kind of what we are trying to describe. And in order to do that, we have semantics and representations on the left, and the variables are the ones that keep them together. So there is the variable cascade, which you probably have heard in other occasions about. And at the top there, we have the provenance that is really what is kind of explaining and covering what the data, where its data is coming from and what happened to it so far. Some of the standards that we integrate with for the different pieces are also displayed here. Next, please. So the working group is organized now in subgroups since we have done most of the development in terms of the model, and it's kind of a more stable product now. What we are working is on different specific areas in separate subgroups. And the main principle behind that is this notion of profiling, collaboration, and integration. So what we do is just trying to find a fragment of the model that is useful for a given use case, collaborate with domain specialists to be able to find how to integrate the model with other domain standards. So we extend the model really when there is no other way to address something because there is something lacking in the other standards, or because we need to create an anchor with the other standards. So qualitative data is one of the main groups also now, subgroups within the working group. And Noemi is going to talk about that next. We have also some UNEC collaboration that's been going on for a few years now. I'm going to talk about that later. W3C collaboration as well. Darren is going to touch on that. And we have others like documentation, tools, modeling, syntax representations, and so on. And also importantly, there is ISO certification that we are involved with in our group. And Wendy, I think, is going to talk about that. So we have a GitHub repository. So please take a look, comment, and raise issues there. Next.
Yeah. Yeah, so your
Yeah,
time is out now, but you can.
So this is just a list of early adopters that to show that we have a really broad collaboration with different agencies and in different domains. I wouldn't go through all this now, but I mean you can go on and also check in our repository about current collaborations and also in the wiki. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Flavio, and also thank you so much for all of the great work on CDI, where you are the main modeler, I would say, and current vice chair also. Noemi, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Noemi Betancourt, chair of the Qualitative Data Subgroup within DDI CDI. The CDI subgroup arose from the tasks at the DAX-Tool Workshop 2023 to further explore the utility and description of non-traditional data within traditional data sets and how the CDI model could be adapted to describe them. We agreed to call it Qualitative Data Subgroup at the last DAX-Tool Workshop, meaning qualitative data in a broader sense, as the nature or type of data opposed to numerical or coded data, and not just data collected using qualitative methods. This includes segments of text, audio, video, and so forth. We see its potential for reuse as valuable source of research and have the goal of making them reusable and interoperable with the help of DDI CDI. Next slide, please. In the past year, we engaged in some outreach activities. We were able to recruit representatives from the Qualitative Data Repository in Syracuse and the GESI's Behavioral Data Department in Germany. We introduced our group and activities internationally, participating in conference, and continue to update our wiki site with meeting notes and our working documents. Next slide, please. Among our past activities, we would like to highlight the compilation of use case for testing the CDI model with qualitative data. We collected some broad description of qualitative datasets examples to get an overview of the data landscape among our members. During and after the DAX-Tool workshop 2024, we focus on those use cases where it is necessary to link to external sources from a tabular dataset. For instance, a patient record with a link to a CT image. We took a closer look at two available approaches to achieve this, the W3C web annotation model and the cross-and format specification developed by Google, among others. We perceived that the way that researchers deal with and structure qualitative data for their analysis is mostly via annotations of the qualitative data objects. The result was the idea of an annotation component as a new component within the data structure components of the model, which should contain a link to the source document and eventually to the segment to which the link should point to. This is the basis of our proposed amendments to DDI CDI 1.0 to accommodate qualitative data. We evaluated which types of selectors we need to target the specific fragments of the data based on its MIME type. Next slide, please. Currently, most of us are from the social science. We promote transparency by providing information about us and our meetings through a Confluence wiki. You can check the link later. Next slide, please. We are trying to identify and collect contact information about those in other disciplines who work with qualitative data or interoperability issues in a broader sense, potentially including qualitative data descriptions. We have started testing the collected use case against the annotation component identified at the last DAX-Tool workshop in order to assess its suitability and identify any remaining issues. At the same time, we are evaluating an amendment proposal and preparing it for the modeling group who will consider implementing the identifier solutions. The process of identifying solutions and proposing changes will continue throughout the current strategic plan period. After DAX-Tool, we started considering this use case here listed to test the annotation component idea. As we require more detailed descriptions of implementation examples at the datum level, we are currently developing an implementation use case template. Next slide, please.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay. In the short and medium term, we will continue to collect use case, expanding into other disciplines with different focuses or data types. As shown, our current use case focus more on mixed method studies and the linking of this data in a machine actionable CDI description. We will then identify needs and possible solutions to achieve data integration and make suggestions for amending the model. These plans align with many of the goals set out in the DDI scientific work plan. Also, the identifying of possible solutions, make specific implementation recommendations like the annotation components and the summary of best practice solutions and proposals, and the development of implementation guides. It's also in our plan. The next slide, please, provides our contact information in case you have a use case you would like to share with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Noemi. It is really great that you are bringing qualitative data into the DDI lines again, and I'm looking forward to working with you on this and also on the scientific board. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now, Catherine, are you ready?
Yes.
Very good.
Thank
Please.
you. Thank you. So I am presenting on the DDI training working group, and you can go to the next slide, please. So just a quick overview. We have around 13 active members across the training group and subgroups, and apparently I need to check my spelling for sub. Anyway, this includes our chairs and it excludes the scientific board members. So we've lost a couple members and we've gained a couple members, and we meet on the first Tuesday of every other month. So we just had a May meeting. So our next meeting would be scheduled for July. The training group co-chairs, this is me and Chantal from Stats Canada. We are both finishing our second year, and the subgroup chairs will also be 2 years in by the time we reach 2026. So like most of the working groups, we are always interested in new members and people looking to take any kind of leadership role to help organize and lead these groups. We do have our 2 active subgroups, the slide deck review and the training opportunities, which is also kind of training requests. And those meet monthly. And the co-chairs and our subgroup chairs meet monthly to collaborate and inform one another. Next slide, please. So over the last fiscal year, we did complete, a webinar that was led by CoData. We had a poster at iAssist. We had a Train the Trainers workshop at Eddy, and we are having a presentation at iAssist in a couple weeks. And you can check the links to those when you get the slides. Next slide. We also did some on-demand trainings, and they're listed here on the slide, the Hunrun Data Documentation Archive and WestEd. The WestEd one I was involved in with Alina, and it was interesting because it was around a time when we were getting a lot of interest at ICBSR about data management plans. And so this was very much related to data management plans. We also got a couple more requests, but they were both resolved without any kind of official training event. Next slide, please. We published several slide decks, 3 Korean versions of intro decks, and they're listed there. We also have these available in French on the Zenodo page. We published How to Document Data Quality with DDI and Understanding Metadata. And we have 2 more decks that are just on the cusp of being sent to the training group. And so you'll get informed about those soon. Next slide, please. Here's some numbers about the latest Zenodo usage, and they're a little bit behind because I prepared this report, I would say late April. And anyway, it includes total downloads and views since 2021, and also the same downloads and views, but for just the last fiscal year. And these numbers look pretty good, I think, and they're pretty consistent across time. Next slide. I have administrator access to the DDI Alliance YouTube, and so I gathered some reports. This includes our all-time top 5 videos, and Intro to DDI Metadata consistently appears at the top. And you can see the views they far exceed the other video views. But what can DDI do for you from 2020? Eddy is pretty popular. And then we've got some other listings there. But then the top 5 over the last year are just a little bit different. Intro to DDI Metadata still ranks at the top, but then we've got the DDI CDI recording and the annual meeting from last year and so forth. So next slide. So some other things we're still working on. In our last year's goals, we wanted to translate those 3 intro slide decks that were translated to Korean. We wanted to do that in Japanese, and this effort is still in progress. So we're hoping to carry this goal over to the next year and finish it then. We also, Chantal and Alina actually led the application for a French minister label, and we received it. And so this is good recognition and marks us as an open science initiative recommended by the French Research Ministry and the French National Research Center. So thank you to them for leading that effort. Next slide. this is just a quick rundown of the funds that we used. We were approved for almost 14 grand, and we had a plan to use that for workshops, supporting our members to lead trainings at workshops, and also some funds for webinars and translations. And that translations was for the Japanese translations, and it was based on a Google search. What happened is that we did support training group members attending certain conferences where their institutions weren't going to support all of their attendance, and those people were involved with trainings at those conferences, so that's great. But no funds were used for webinars. The May webinar that I noted, it actually technically fell under the last fiscal year's budget, and the webinars have kind of stalled. Actually, we're focusing more on organizing our existing content and making it clear which audiences they're most applicable to. And so we're holding off on prioritizing new webinars for now. And so you can see that our total planned funds used is about 5 grand. And I think that the next slide is my last slide, and it's just a thank you. So, yep, thank you, Hilda. I want to thank all of our DDI training group members. It's such a great community, and my co-chair and the subgroup chairs, we couldn't get this work done without them. And I just really appreciate all the effort. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much, Catherine. You are doing such a great job with the training group, and so much is done. And also, kind of with the translations, you are engaging with new communities and making DDI accessible. And
Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much. It's really, really appreciated. And then, Roma, are you ready to report about questions and questionnaires group?
Yes, Hilda, thank you. I think I am.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Romain Tudora from Making Sense. I'm the co-chair of this question and questionnaire group. I think win the longest title of them all. Next slide, please, Hilda. So just a quick recap on the I would say the birth certificate of the group. It was set up after a meeting that was held during a satellite meeting of the Cosmos conference last year. And it just happens because some group of people considered there was a need to help more with the design of the managing of questionnaires using DDI products. So basically, the mission is that to provide guidelines for DDI user, but also to identify needs for new material or some evolution of the standards. We don't have any kind of deadline yet, or I would say end year for the group. I would say it's a long lead initiatives. We have done a lot of work, but slow progress on the work. I think we will still be there on next year's and the next one after that. Next slide, please, Hilda. So we have regular meetings with a core group of people. I think we started with the 20 people interesting in the group, but the core group is much more around 10 people that gather every month or several times a month, in fact. We really started working on precisely what we were going to do, and we just identified the need for a survey to reach out to end users. We did that by the end of 2024, and we present the result during AD24, also during a Bird of Feathers session. And it was also during AD that this core group of people decide the next direction for the group during a workshop that was in fact a kind of brainstorming session. And I will present you those direction in the next slide, please, Hilda. So basically, there are four major goals of the group. The first one will be to improve the Get It Starting section of the questionnaires on the website. So that's part of the strategical goal 1.1. Also, I would say the core product of the group in the next month would be to develop and to disseminate a guide and some best practice. So documents, much more probably would be document singular, not plural. That's where we are heading, and also it is also a part of the same strategical goal, the 1.1. Also, we would like to provide a real-life example of questionnaires in DDI. It would be in DDI codebook and in DDI lifecycle. This particular goal was really how to say, it emerged from the results of the discussion we have had at EDI and the survey itself. The fact that many people wanted to have some markup example of good practices and things that other people are doing. So that's one of the things we will provide. And the last goal would be to work on the tool list and description of the tools that we can use to produce questionnaire or to to design questionnaire in the several DDI standards. And for that, we just divide the work into subgroups. So there are actually 4 subgroups that compose the whole question group. Next slide, please, Hilda. So that's just an overview of what I presented, a more graphical one. So the idea is that all the examples of actual marker will be annotated and will fed the best practices document. So it had already been some examples, so we have already been identified and provided. So that's one of the project of the group, and so it will be put into, I would say, illustration of the best practice document. This document has already, I would say, an outline, and we are working right now for writing, in fact, the words and organizing more precisely what we will put in the document. The idea would not be to reinvent the wheel. One of our main principle is to reuse existing material. More precisely, we are looking into what exists in the training materials, and the idea is to start from that and expand, in fact, the ideas, the concept, and to provide some practical ways to go ahead with DDI. Also, the tools subgroup will provide more concrete help on how to use how to choose and use the existing tools for managing and creating DDI questionnaires. And all of that will fed the website through the Get It Starting section for questions and questionnaires. Next slide, please, Hilda. And that will be my last one. Just to remember that all the things, all the works that we are doing is totally, how to say, it's provided through the wiki, the notes from each of our meeting, and the ongoing work on the Google documents or slides or whatever. And that's it for me. I would like also to thank all the members of the group because, as you mentioned earlier, this group and all the working group exists because of the people that give much of their time, and I think it is quite working for us. So thanks to all the group members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Romar. It's very good to see this moving forward and all the work you are doing. So very useful, and thank you so much. So let's move to the next one. Ingo, are you ready?
Think so. I hope you hear me. I have some problems with Zoom.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, no, it works. I'm in a hotel in Munich at the moment,
We
so
can hear you. We can hear you, Ingo.
okay,
Very
perfect.
good.
Also for me, it's only one slide. So, hi, the people who don't know me, I'm at the moment still part of the scientific board, and I'm one of the 3 co-chairs of the developers group. The developers group is actually quite a large group. We have almost 25 people now, and we are meeting in about every 2 months to discuss further developments of DDI into software. But I think the basically event we are most known for is the hackathon, and of course this year will be like every year. There will be a hackathon. It will be the hackathon version 3.1, so this is not life cycle, an old version. Actually, it's the 4th hackathon, but we are IT people, so therefore we had in 2024 2 hackathons, and therefore we only incremented the minor, not the major. So it's 3.1 hackathon in 2025 in Budapest. So it's a side meeting to Eddie. So I would really encourage you to stay for 2 days longer than the normal Eddie, because the hackathon is really a worthwhile thing. It will be at the same location, so at the Institute for Social Sciences in Budapest. There will be, when Eddie closes, we will start with a welcome reception. Then we will hack on Thursday and Friday. On Thursday, so that nobody gets disturbed, there will be a pizza party. On hackathons, it might be that you work longer than usual, meaning 12 hours, 14 hours days. Sometimes hackathons are even so extreme that people stay in the room and sleep there. We never had that, but with pizza and beer, you get far in the evening, I would say. And at the end, we have also a thank you dinner. So on Wednesday, we will meet in a beer bar, which is called Cake. And on Friday, we will go to a steakhouse, which is called Toferkel. The event is sponsored. We asked for a budget for it. So everything, the whole dinner, lunch, everything that is happening during the hackathon is paid for, so that hackers can have the maximum efficiency during the 2 days for prototyping and developing new stuff. Actually, the output from the last hackathons has been very impressive. So therefore, thank you for all that participated until now. It's always very useful, and the prototypes that are developed there will be further developed somewhere else or within the developer group normally than in future. We can offer limited travel support. We can, because this year we don't have, obviously, like many groups, not so much sponsorship like usual, meaning if somebody has problems coming, we can see if we can fit at least part of the cost into the budget. But we calculated with 2 people from Europe and max 1 international, and they're also not the full costs. But if you have problems, please talk to us, then we might make something possible there. All are welcome, not only developers. Especially in the last hackathon in Turku, we made the observation that if we also have some conceptual people in the group, the outcomes can be improved. So when you say, why should I go to a hackathon? I'm not a developer. Also, if you have ideas, or if you have anything you would like to see, or if you want to give some input for stuff that is developed there as a prototype, would be very welcome to join, so that basically the whole experience and also the quality can be improved. And last but not least, the system, if you don't know how a hackathon works, so we are based on challenges. So basically, this is also something that I would give you as a task. Please go starting from summer to the GitHub that the developer group uses, and put challenges there, because in the hackathon, the hackers will assemble into groups and will take those challenges. So they will select the challenges. So not everything that is put in as a challenge will at the end be worked on, because the hackers are completely free to pick the challenges that they like most. But we would like to have a lot of challenges, and I can always give the advice: if you want to have something implemented, then make the challenge interesting. If you say something like, yeah, I have something interesting in my own organization, nobody's liking to work on that, describe it in an interesting way, make clear that this would be something great as an addition for DDI, and then the chance that the hackers will pick that topic is actually, I think, quite big. And this would be something. Okay, as I said, I'm only the 5-minute guy, so this was it from me. Thanks to everybody in the group, thanks to the scientific board, and I'm out.
Thanks to you, Ingo. Great that you're organizing this together with your co-organizers, and it's really interesting, and I hope as many as possible will come to this hackathon of yours.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so now again, qualitative data, what next? And Darren, are you ready?
Yep, sure. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so let me just go on to the first slide, Hilda. Yeah, so Naomi alluded to some of this work earlier. This just gives a little bit more context about where we are with qualitative work and future plans. So just a reminder that from the DDI Moving Forward project, there was a large amount of qualitative work done there. Essentially what we're doing is revisiting quali, probably not to the same extent. But yes, there are a number of people who are interested in quali, myself included, and I think the general consensus is that quali could be more significantly represented within the DDI products. So early last year, these conversations were initiated from the CDI group. So the initial scope of this was fairly narrow in could we look at what some useful things might be to do with qualitative data within the context of CDI. So a subgroup was set up, and that's led by Naomi Betancourt, and a number of use cases. We discussed those in October towards the end of last year. So generally, the agreement was that providing annotations, which are essentially, in the simplest terms, supplementary granular information about a particular row or case of data, if you like, with a kind of low-hanging fruit here. So what we did is we looked at how we might implement this in the existing CDI model in the least disruptive way possible. These are particularly useful for mixed method studies where you might have quantitative data, but you might want to reference, for instance, an image or indeed a segment of an image. I mean, the common one that comes up is a medical scan where you might say, there's a particular bit of this scan that I want to segment and identify very clearly. So, I mean, these come under the broad banner of annotations. There was also, as an aside, a significant discussion about whether qualitative was the right word and whether we just really meant non-quantitative. As you can imagine, that's the kind of discussion that can easily take up a week. So we've put that aside for now and decided to just use the qualitative label with an acknowledgement that's not necessarily perfect. Next slide. Okay, so the CD annotations, we've got a meeting in the morning to discuss the kind of final proposal here. But essentially what it allows you to do is take a particular row of quantitative data and within one column effectively encapsulate lots of granular information about different media types or qualitative artifacts that you might want to reference, and indeed segments of those artifacts. What we're doing here in order to be able to reference segments of information in qualitative artifacts is to reuse the W3C web annotation data model. There was lots of robust discussion about whether we should instantiate some and define some new classes. In the end, this is a kind of least worst option. So rather than reinventing the wheel, we're using the existing W3C model and acknowledging that's not perfect, but it's a kind of working solution for now. Next slide, Hilda. Okay, so this gives you more of a visual fix on what we're trying to do here. So we might have a quantitative data set that represents surveys, and within a particular annotation column, as we call it, you can reference multiple media types. The two-dimensional tabulation here is for convenience, because in the actual RDF representation of this, that there are multiple rows to represent individual media artifacts that are referenced from a single row in the data. But essentially, this was the least disruptive way of changing the model. So currently, there are 3 component types in CDI. There are identifier components, attribute, and measure components, which essentially define the function of any particular variable. We're going to add a 4th, which is, or there might be others actually, but anyway, we'll add an annotation component which tells software how to interpret this particular variable. And then on the instance value, there will be an additional property called annotation reference, which reuses the W3C annotation classes. Next slide. Okay, so that was a really interesting but honestly quite narrow use case within the context of CDI. So I think what we were, while moving on to now, is setting up a broader qualitative working group that will accommodate all of the different DDI products. You know, are there some useful things we can do in both codebook and lifecycle as well to better accommodate qualitative data? We don't want to boil the ocean here and build out, you know, a massive, all-encompassing qualitative system, but there are possibly some useful things we can introduce into DDI. Some of the common use cases would be, you know, how do we model qualitative object collections? I was over at Bergen last week, and Benjamin Boyster there has done some really interesting work on reusing or more formally defining, I should say, how we use other materials to model the relationships between items in a qualitative collection. So we're just working on the terms of reference of the proposal, and we'll submit that to the SB in July, hopefully earlier actually. But yeah, we'll send some emails out because we'd love more people to be involved in that qualitative working group. So that'll be coming soon. Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you, Darren. So I think this is a good next step. And yeah, let's move on in these directions. Flavio, are you ready again?
Yeah, I'm ready again.
Official stats.
Okay, thank you. So I'm putting my official statistics hat now. Next, please. So just to recap on why we have this collaboration, I'm going to talk briefly about how we got here. So official statistics have been evolving, for lack of a better word, like facing the new challenges, larger projects, cross-domain, as we mentioned before in the CDI presentation, more data coming from more sources, diverse sources, heterogeneous, and also the increased ability to compute with data. So AI and especially large language models, but before that, machine learning as well has been increasing in really every project or use that we have in the production of statistics, from back office to pretty much everything else. So these are the new challenges, and those come with new requirements. So we need more complete, standardized, and machine actionable metadata. So we had machine actionable, especially metadata in big standards like DDI and SDMX, I will mention next. But is not complete and is standardized to some extent, and we will talk about that later. Improve context for describing the data, like provenance and semantics. give you a kind of context, again, for lack of a better word, that's a very overloaded word, to understand the data. And we need also an ability to describe and integrate data from heterogeneous sources, as I mentioned before, and that really comes with different data structures. Like layouts are different, it's not just wide, also it's long, like in events, sensors data, dimensional, key value we have as well in CDI. There is a variety of standards. So SDMX, as I mentioned, is one of the most important ones in addition to DDI in the official statistics, but there are plenty more. And data could be described by mostly DDI and SDMX and additional standards like SCOS describing value domains and so on. So we need to deal with that. And there are a bunch of tools that have been developed, some of them open source and some of them developed by vendors, like we all know Collectica in this community, but there are a lot of open source tools also on SDMX. Next, please. So that's where we are. And in that context, we started looking at mappings between DDI and SDMX. As I said, because they appear a lot in our work in official statistics, and you never know when you are going to need to integrate data with one or the other. I'll get back to that. So there is also an open and collaborative development in both standards, so that's easy to build mappings with. And there is a growing ecosystem of tools and libraries. And there is a strong support for semantic harmonization and alignment, which is also essential for the work we do. However, there are a bunch of issues to address. The main one is that these standards, DDI and SDMX, and I mean the suites of standards in each side, were developed independently by different communities. So we're not aligned on purpose. So there are some alignment, but it has been casual alignment, or because some people are working on both, but not intentionally developing in the actual program of these standards until recently, at least. Very emphasis on semantics, so structures and granularity. So they are really different in the way semantics as the structures are dealt with, and the granularity as well. And there are different strengths and weaknesses that we can discuss for a long time, but essentially they get in the way of really coming up with easy solutions about how to integrate them and map them. Next. So to make this short, this is not new. I mean, standards, the mappings between standards like DDI and SDMX has been in the works for quite some time, like 10, 15 years even. The issue is that these were broad mappings, like we were trying to map all the objects in DDI with all the objects in SDMX, and different ways at different times between different products. Like DDI 3, I think, was the first one that we tried to do a serious mapping with SDMX, but maybe there is something for codebook. I mean, I guess Wendy could talk about that more than me. But these mappings are unnecessarily complex to develop and maintain because they are big, and also because in most cases, only a fragment of the models are used. So mapping everything and then most of it is not used is really like increasing work for no particular gain. They are impractical as well because sometimes we want to map things differently depending on the use case. So these are generic mappings that are meant to be the same no matter how you use the models and in what application, and that is a problem in some situations. So we started to look in the last 3-4 years to narrower mappings that are context specifics, that are more tailored to use cases. And the first big activity in that area was this interoperability between SDMX and DDI using GSBPM as context, which is an activity that happened for a couple of years under the UNEC supporting standards group. And the idea was to identify the relevant artifacts, both SDMX and DDI, that were useful for that particular sub-processing in GSBPM. GSBPM is a generic model for describing activities in the statistical production. And that helped a lot because all of a sudden, instead of having hundreds of artifacts to map, we have like 5, 6, 7 that are relevant in a particular sub-process, like edit and imputation, let's say. That made the problem feasible. And also more recently, we started looking at interoperability between SDMX and DDI for specifically data integration. So we were looking at a very narrow set of use cases, but very, very common and useful. And we were trying to just find a way of relating both standards and making mappings between them for that particular activity. So there has been a series of meetings at Dashtool, Cosmos, the conference in April last year, and also the Monestats World Workshop in October last year. And then we set up a task team reporting to the UNEC Supporting Standards Group. Next, please. So why the UNEC Supporting Standards Group? Like why we are doing the work under that umbrella? Well, first of all, because it has the operational responsibility of developing and maintaining these models that we use in official statistics, like the GSIM for modeling information objects, GSBPM I mentioned, and GAMSO and others. But these are three big ones in the official statistics world. And it also has an advisory role on how to use these standards to make interoperable data metadata solutions, and how to implement them using implementation standards like DDI, but also SDMX, VTL, and others. So it's kind of sitting in that sweet spot in which it develops new models and also it advices of how to integrate those models with implementations, because these models, GSIM, GSBPM, and GAMSO, and others are conceptual models. And without implementation models, there is not that much you can do in terms of solution systems. So, and then we have a network of experts, same as DDI and SDMX, that really have extensive experience in key areas we need for this activity. And also there is a lot of overlap, like there are experts in DDI and SDMX that are part of the UNEC Supporting Standards Group. So it's sitting right in the middle, and it becomes kind of this de facto nexus between these communities. So because of the fact that it's a UN organization and is really linking lots of different agencies, and there is this overlap between experts, which are essential for the development of all this, it's because we started developing this activity under that umbrella. Next.
2 minutes.
Okay. So data integration appears, as I mentioned, in many practical use cases. It's just the ability to combine and link data for different purposes, and that's kind of used in any data production analysis environment. We have a few use cases that we are working on right now, and there are lots of other World Fair projects and CDF projects that are gonna also be using this type of interoperability, like mappings between DDI and SDMX. We are using DDI CDI as this kind of Rosetta Stone lingua franca for mapping and integration because of what we discussed about CDI in the past. And there are several prerequisites that we have for an effective data integration that we need to take into account. So the integration ready aspect that I mentioned before. So we need to describe the data as much as we can and not more than that, like anything that is necessary just for being able to integrate it. We need to define mappings between the elements, harmonize concepts whenever possible, which is not always the case, and provide the processing descriptions for provenance. Next. So this is kind of a high level view of what the main elements of the integration process and how they are organized. So basically, we need the data, which is coming in data sets with data structures and represented variables describing the actual content of the variable of the columns, let's say, in the data sets. Mappings, which is one of the main activities that we have between data structure components and represented variables. So we have to define the language for the mapping, but then we have to apply it to a concrete example. So we have to say what the source data structure, how the source data structure maps to a target data structure and between them. And then there is some sort of integration logic that we need to also take into account, which is kind of rules that are parameterized and that they have source and target data structures and data. So with all these is that we need to standardize the way we do everything, the mappings and the way we we describe the steps. This is the diagram is using DDI CDI as an example, but then each of these elements need to be mapped to DDI in general, all the products in DDI and SDMX. Next, please. So the expected outputs, just to finish, is to provide a guideline, a set of guidelines about how to go about this. We are going to have examples. We are going to have lots of recommendations, but not a prescriptive framework, because the problem is too broad to do that. Like, people, you integrate data and produce data in so many different ways that it's very hard to prescribe and still make the solution useful. We need to determine what are the data description elements that are required to make the data integration ready. And we have done a bit of that already, but far from finished. We need the machine actionable mappings and determine exactly how that's going to work. And we need to clarify also potentially confusing terminology, because we have lots of terms that are the same, but they mean something different, and lots of things that are not in one or the other standard. So this clarification is important as part of using both standards together. Then we need recommendations on how to define the integration process, as I mentioned, the logic part, and the potential interoperability with other standards is another key part, because there are other standards that are really useful for describing data, cataloging data, and so on. And DCAD, schema.org are two of the most popular ones, but there are many more. So all this to say, we are working on this, and there are many aspects that need to be taken into consideration and in different communities. And this is of great interest for both SDMX and DDI communities and the UNEC itself. So yeah, making progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Flavio. Wonderful. And I suppose this work will feed very nicely into the new that the EB has just started. So, yeah, Darren, briefly on W3C collaboration.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm conscious of time, so just a brief status update of this. So we just go on to the next slide, Hilda. Okay, so really just a recap of progress so far. I mean, this is built into the strategic plan and the SB work plan. I mean, there are other things, other connections being made. I mean, looking at ISO, some of the work that Dan Gilbin's been doing as well. But this all really emerges from the end of 2023. Pierre-Antoine Champin, who works within W3C, kind of initiated this conversation, saying, this actually might be a possibility that we could look at some kind of collaboration with W3C. At that stage, it was not really clear which elements of DDI we might be talking about, and to some extent that's still not wholly clear, but largely looking at the variable cascade and abstracting that a little bit to talk about variable descriptions and how we might represent that is a possibility as well. So there's a lot of bureaucracy associated with W3C. I mean, not necessarily in a bad way, but yeah, there are a lot of procedures to follow. So the easiest way that was determined was, rather than creating a brand new group here, it would simply to extend and re-charter the existing dataset exchange working group, which has been around for a few years, but is kind of in abeyance at the moment. It's kind of dormant. So the first thing that needs to be done is to establish an agreement between the DDI Alliance and W3C. W3C are very emphatic that they don't own anything, and the products that are kind of generated from W3C are not owned by anyone. It's it's a truly open model. Next slide. Okay, so that agreement, I mean, these things take time, and it has taken time, but there is now a draft agreement that ICPSR have put together. That really is going to be quite soon for some discussion and approval. I mean, subject to that approval, and there'll be some discussion, and presumably about the optimal scope and potential membership of these groups. there will then be a process where we have to actually get the charter finalized for the W3C group. This won't take nearly as long, but it needs to be formally written up. That isn't a super normative specification or anything. The charter simply defines, you know, the goals of the group, the general scope, but it doesn't have to be too specific. So I'm optimistic that you know that group will commence formal work on both the charter and ideally, you know, the joint group will follow very soon after. You know, hopefully in the autumn when this actually properly gets going. Next slide. Okay, so basically, I mean, the goal of that joint group is looking at developing a RDF variable description vocabulary, also looking at how that would integrate into things like DCAT, DataCube, SSN, and some other things. So that will, you know, it's largely driven by work on CDI, but it's not exclusively a CDI initiative. That, you know, so one of the things the working group would consider is what aspects across the board in DDI would be suitable or appropriate for inclusion in those kind of W3C recommendations. So that charter, this is an iterative process, so that charter will define further and more accurately what the goals of that group are. So yeah, it's taken a little while to get where we are, but I think things will start moving quite rapidly in the next couple of months. Okay, all right, thanks, Hilda.
Thank you very much, Darren, and it will be very interesting to see this moving forward. Now we are a little over time, but before we start the discussion section, we will Wendy will give us an update from Dan Gilman regarding the ISO certification. Are you ready, Wendy?
Yes, I'm ready. There are no slides, so it will be very brief. Basically, a draft of the ISO specification was written up earlier. It's gone through one round of comments. Dan's resolved them, and he's now just earlier this week issued a new draft for the people who were looking at it. He also sent this draft to Sam O and the ISO TC46 SC4 committee. And that is where he is today, presenting to them and expect to answer a number of questions. Sam's really positive about the work he had seen so far, but as Dan was being cautiously optimistic. But at the beginning of this meeting, we received an email from Dan that the TC46 SC4 approved the past submission project for DDI ISO standardization. It's now on their books, and they expect our draft no later than September. So this kind of puts a fire under it, but I think we're in a good spot. The first round of reviews went quite well. There were a number of points brought up and have raised a number of other specific issues as he resolved those. So I think those who are looking at it or others that are interested in reviewing this work should contact Dan Gilman or myself, and we'll get you in contact with the materials and the format for commenting. But it looks like we've got good progress on this. It covers a very basic core area of DDI, focusing much on the variable cascade, how we deal with concepts and the pieces of a variable, and also the variable domains. So how they are expressed. So it's a very compact section of DDI, but it is the broad core of what we have built all of our products around and support products towards. So that's moving well. As I said, contact myself or Dan Gilman if you want more specific information on the current status and the comment forms. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendy, for the update. And now I realize we have many comments in the chat, but since we are a little over time, I suggest we move forward with the discussion part, and then maybe we can resolve any comments offline afterwards and publish them. Do you like that idea, or Darren, or do you have other takes on that?
No, I think we can go ahead. I mean, I'll briefly introduce it. I mean, essentially, there are a few topics that we considered discussing, but we've settled on two. One of which is, it's a very simple title, DDI API. I think, my understanding is that there are many different ways to present DDI information on interfaces. I think we're all familiar with OAI feeds, Collectica repository, custom implementations, and it's a very complicated way of presenting, what ideally should be more standardized information. So Akeem, I know you've got a couple of slides. I didn't know if you wanted to kind of,
Yeah, I'm happy to
introduce the
talk
topic.
about the slides. Yeah.
Yeah, I can share my screen again, and I can do. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Can you see Akeem's slides now?
Now you are in presenters mode.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, next, please. Yeah, I suggested this topic, DDI API, and it was triggered by a recent discussion in the DDI Developers Forum. Olaf Olsen provided a proposal for DDI media tapes. And then, later on, I had a longer conversation with Knut Wenzig, and that broadened, I think, the overall perspective. And then I remember there was a Darkstuhl workshop in 2017 about DDI-based infrastructure vision. And many years ago, there was a REST API draft. So this is the background. And with this background, Alex, please, I broadened the topic. I broadened the topic to access to DDI metadata. And I see, based on all of these conversations, following objectives. There should be easy access to DDI metadata in respect to a couple of criteria. Easy access for humans, easy access for programs, inside an organization, but also across organizations. One view is to download all DDI metadata for a study or for study collection. Another objective would be to access granular DDI metadata like a variable description. It's all about standardized ways to provide DDI resources and standardized ways to access DDI resources. Overall, there is, again, this vision of a distributed DDI metadata network. Next, please. Yeah, I see here following possible steps for realizing these objectives. First, that slide on technical measures. There are three topics. The media types. Media types could be defined for all DDI resources. This should include all specifications and all related syntax representations. Such a formalization can be then proposed to IANA for registration. And this is, we learned that in the discussion in the developers forum, this is nowadays much easier than in the past. Then the next step is fair signposting, which is a way to integrate in a web page basically links for programs to further resources. This is a relatively easy way to establish. And the next step further is the API, which is basically an agreement between a program which provides the DDI metadata and a program which requests the DDI metadata. And especially for accessing granular DDI resources, this would be crucial. That could be possibly REST-based or web-based. And next, please. But beyond the technical measures, there should be organizational measures. First, probably a new working group to discuss all these things. And at the end, there should be an outcome of that the DDI Alliance can publish recommendations for metadata providers. And this would ease the access to DDI metadata. And last but not least, setting up a sample metadata provider as a showcase would help other people. That's it. That's a lot of things. I guess there are more thoughts, or I'm also sure that there should be some priority as well. But overall, I think to use DDI metadata on the web, there should be some recommendations, some more steps realized. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Hakeem. So, I mean, does anyone have any kind of reactions or comments to that on, is this a good idea, a not so good idea? Would people find it useful? Knut.
I would completely stress the importance that it should be some guidance on publishing DDI metadata, makes them available for humans, as Achim said, and for machines. I've got I've done some research with others on accessing DDI metadata, and lately I've found that more than 600,000 metadata records containing DDI information are more or less easily available in standardized ways via OAI-PMH at this moment. And there are other methods, to be seen more modern, perhaps. For signposting, I think it would be a method of choice if one has non-XML metadata, especially. And I would totally agree to Achim that a kind of working group which should come up with some recommendations on how we should publish DDI metadata on the different technical frameworks like OAI-PMH, fair signposting, and other methods are in the air. I think Pascal has some additional ideas. But I'm a little favoring a modular approach. Some people might want or can contribute to OAI-PMH. Some others can contribute to the REST API idea. Some others could contribute to fair signposting, and I would imagine that at all of those different technical ways on publishing DDI metadata, at some point, the alliance gets importance. For example, one would like to approach the fair signposting community that say suggests to publishing DDI metadata in their way, or the OAI-PMH community in saying, okay, we have here some kind of metadata prefixes, what is part of their standard, and that's the kind. If somebody wants to publish DDI metadata, he should do it in this way. And there, I think the alliance should be some authoritative entity that proposes some kind of method.
Yeah, sounds good. Pascal.
Yeah, I just want to add that I'll keep it brief, and I think the Akim's suggestion to have a working group on this topic is a very good one because obviously we can talk about this for hours. But yeah, I've been now for the past 3 years. I've been very active in the API world, and I've had the working for Postman, which is one of the largest company in the API space. I've seen the growth of APIs and the rapid growth of API and the way it's going up is absolutely incredible. And it's really, if you want to do anything machine actionable, you need an API. This is how application communicate with each other, website communicate with each other, but also now with the emergence of AI, there's absolutely no way that you can get away without having APIs. If you want to make knowledge around data machine actionable, you need APIs. Agents will call APIs to understand data sets. LLMs and know with things like if you've been in the API space, they think of MCP, the Model Context Protocol, because the standards about how agents and other AI applications communicate with each other. We need APIs, and I think it's been long overdue for DDI. I think SDMX has done it right from the beginning by always having an API. We don't need to build an API itself. We just need to come up with guidance and specifications to avoid also people coming up with their own APIs, and then we're going to have 10 different APIs for DDI. So, but I think at this point, I would just give it short and having a discussion around this, and if it becomes a working group, it's even better. I think that's probably a great thing to do. So I'll be very happy to support that.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. Well, it sounds like, yeah, there's a lot of love in the room for this at the moment. So I think, Hilda, the next step is to discuss this SB, isn't it, as well? I mean, I really like the idea. I think I'd much rather implement a compliant DDI API rather than have to carry on using the OAI feed until I die. So yes, yeah, it sounds good to me. So yeah, thanks.
There's also been discussion of this within the technical committee too.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, all sounds good. All right. So I'm very conscious of time. So I'd like to give the floor to George. This was the second topic, and really about the integration of DDI with statistical packages, particularly Python and R. So I don't know if you want to say a few words about that, George.
Sure. So actually, this is really a continuation of the last discussion.
Mhm.
And the point I want to make is that the research community and people who do statistics are moving away from the older statistical packages, SAS, SPSS, Stata, to R and Python. That's what's being taught in the data science courses. So students at university who are now learning those things, and they differ from the old packages in a number of ways. One of them is that they're open source, which is very nice they're available now to people in under-resourced universities and things like that, because they can download them for free. But they also have built in and are built around access to APIs. And one thing that impressed me recently was that that IPUMS now has a way that the way that you bring IPUMS data into R is that they have an R package that reads a DDI file and a text data file and reads it directly into R. This, I think, is the future. And I'm not sure where IPUMS is on an API, but I think that I'm sure that they're working on that too. What that means is that the discussion that was just held about APIs, you can look at from another perspective, which is there is a big community out there that will use APIs to read data with DDI metadata as soon as we get standard APIs for doing it. And so I think that one of the points that Achim was making about standardization is from the point of view of statistics users is very important. We want to have one set of APIs that all of the data providers, ICPSR, IPUMS, UKDA, whatever, GASIS, if they're all using one set of APIs to read data with DDI markup, then we can have standard packages in R and Python that will read those in, and I'm just convinced that they will be widely used. So I think that there are two roles here for the DDI Alliance. One of them is to follow up on the discussion that we just held about APIs and have some form of standardization across data providers. But also, I'd like to see the Alliance return to the practice of sort of listing, approving, endorsing packages. But what's happening now is that there are now several packages in both R and Python that use DDI. And I think we need some sort of process where the Alliance plays some role in encouraging those to be standards so that they're not proliferating wildly, but there are packages that conform to the API standard that the Alliance will provide to make things simpler for users. So that's what the point that I was making, and I hope that others might have ideas about how those can be achieved.
Yeah. Okay. So again, anyone got any immediate reactions to that? Remain.
Yes, maybe a simple one, George. I think there is quite a difference between the old, I would say, statistical packages and R and Python, for example, because the later one are more programming languages, and so they provide a lot of tools for data wrangling, statistical application, machine learning, whatever. So I think it would be maybe much more complicated to have some kind of standardized interface for going from DDI to data frame, for example, or extracting information from data frame for producing DDI. So I think it will be, yeah, much more of a challenge, I guess.
Okay. Adrian, are you waving your hand? And are you on mute?
Yes.
Sorry.
No. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm good. Yeah, I could not be more welcoming of this initiative, especially because I have developed a package in R called DDI with R, which is capable of importing and exporting various statistical packages into R. R, of course, I've worked with that for the past 25 years, and it's becoming it is, I think, the lingua franca of statistical research. One thing that was missing from R until recently was the treatment of the missing values, because R has only one missing value. And all the other statistical packages have multiple missing values like stata, stas, and SPSS. That's fixed now with the package DDI with R, which means now that users can import data into R in a seamless way, just like they were doing it into SPSS and stata and SAS. And that makes it very easy now with respect to exporting, importing, and also with respect to DDI, because the package DDI is built around the DDI codebook, which means it can be saved into individual codebook files and published into public repositories like that. So yes, very good initiative, George, and let's build around the already existing initiatives.
Okay. So yeah, it sounds like two absolutely great ideas and a call for action. It's almost like it's interoperability, isn't it? So okay. So I'm conscious we're at time, so I'll leave you to wrap up then, Hilda.
Yes, so then I just want to thank everybody for all of their contributions. As you see, so much is going on in DDI Alliance, and with the collaborations we have, like expanding a little and reaching out, we get so much more input to be on the top of things. So it's incredible, I must say, and I'm so thankful for everything that's going on. and also to you, Darren and my colleagues on the scientific board, to all of the working groups, to other initiatives that are really bringing in competence in their time, and so on. So thank you very much. And we see each other around. Please, if you're interested to collaborate on some of this, please contact us. You will be warmly welcome.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. And bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.